Okay, flag salute. And we'll have the students from TJ, Jayesh, Charasha, and Madeline Donna lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Shi?
Here.
Mrs. Maroney?
Here.
Mrs. Ward?
Here.
Mrs. Madiker?
Here.
Mr. Errico? Mrs. Peng?
Here.
Mr. Brescher?
Here.
Mr. DiStefano?
Here.
Mrs. Patel?
Here.
All present except Mr. Errico.
Opening statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Edison Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Board of Education administrative offices. Copies of these notices were sent to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger on January 8, 23rd, 2018. The public may participate at regular meetings in accordance with the bylaws and the applicable state regulations. So before we actually start tonight's meeting, as you can see, our fellow board member Ralph Errico is not here. He is in the hospital. We all wish him a speedy recovery, and we hope to see him very soon. So next, we will switch the order of the agenda. So we'll have TJ Principal Antonetti.
Good evening, Dr. O'Malley and members of the Edison Board of Education. Welcome to Thomas Jefferson Middle School, home of the Jaguars, where our motto is, today we learn, tomorrow we lead. The month of March is National Music in Our Schools Month. I believe music and the arts significantly enhance the morale of the school environment and prepare our students to be productive members of society. Music education promotes craftsmanship and the desire to achieve excellence. The students in the music program are some of the most dedicated individuals at Thomas Jefferson Middle School. At TJ, we encourage all students to get involved in the school community and assume a leadership role. As a result, we have 45% of our students involved in our music program. These students demonstrate their commitment to the music program and their individual growth by arriving to school early in the morning and staying after school for rehearsals. They are engaged in the learning process and work collaboratively with their teacher, Ms. Pasquarelli, and their classmates. Research shows that music education goes beyond the classroom. Students involved in the music program are more likely to transfer the desire for excellence to all subjects, develop empathy and have higher self-esteem and confidence, have great imagination and intellectual curiosity, have tools to better cope with stress. Tonight, the 8th grade orchestra directed by Ms. Pasquarelli will perform 2 selections that demonstrate how music enriches the lives of our students. Thank you.
Okay. We're done with that, right? Video? Yeah. Okay, next up, Dr. O'Malley.
Just setting up, so. All good? All right. Thank you, Mr. Shi. This evening, we will continue our recognition of some of our outstanding students in our district with our Edison's Own Award. Tonight's recipient is our last for this school year, and it's quite special because we have one remarkable young lady to share with everyone. So I would like to introduce Harshini Asukumar to please come up with her beautiful family. Stand right here. You're going to be able to see that right there, right? So Harshini is a fourth grader at Menlo Park School, and she is unbelievably talented. And I can't say any more, but we're going to let the video introduce you, all right? Here we go.
I basically take a big deep breath and I imagine all my friends and family cheering for me. And then when the music starts, like I feel like I'm one with the music. I just start dancing to it, like with elegance and grace. It's coming from me, and like it's like I control the music. I'm part of the music, and it's just really fun being out there. And there's nothing to be afraid of, because if you're gonna be afraid, that's not gonna help you at all. That's what I've learned. My name is Harshini Asukumar. I'm a fourth grader in Menlo Park Elementary School. I started roller skating at the age of 4. Originally, I had these old blades, which I skated around on the blades in the blacktop at the place, and I also went to a nearby ice skating rink. At age 7, I went into competitive mode, and with the help of my coaches, Coach Susan, Coach Kristen, Coach Joe, and Coach Jackie, they really taught me how to believe in myself and trained me really hard. I really want to give special thanks to them because they really, really helped me a lot.
The first time I thought that she could do something in it was when she won her first competition, and I really saw that she was into it.
I felt really happy. Like I was like so worried and tense at the beginning, and then after that I'm like, yay! And I just run to my coaches and hug it, and my coach is like, oh, Harshini, you won. I'm like, what? I did?
More than the competition, the experience she's gaining out of this is really tremendous.
Writing never stops. There's no rule in writing. You just can write whatever you want. It gives me the freedom, and I never get bored of it, so I really like writing. And it's my favorite thing to do in my free time. I started writing stories, entering them in contests, and I started winning. And so I decided to write my own book about 2 girls who go on detective mysteries. Because with that imagination, I was able to publish my own Raven and Mara book in Amazon. I went in a small trip in India to a village in India to visit my great-grandparents, and I wanted to explore the village because I never really saw that type of village. So the next day I went to visit the school. I was really shocked when second graders were sitting on the rugs on dirty rugs. I asked them where are the desks, and they explained that only 8th grade and above had desks. And I thought every kid should deserve to have equal education because nobody's really better than other people. I really wanted to help, so I decided to start the Creative Foundation Blooming Flowers, where kids help kids. It's where a kid will write a story, and every word equals 1 cent. And I go out and find sponsors, and they will pay for the story. And my first project, I got more than $600. It was successful, and I felt really happy it can help. And I got school supplies for 191 kids in a village in a school in India.
I think we are really proud of her taking all the lead and initiative, and we don't have to tell her, and most of the time she always comes across and wants to help the kids, and that really makes us really proud of her.
And more than me, and what makes me really happy that I can help people just by making a small difference is that I can help them in 2 ways. I can help people start to express more of themselves, just like how I started when I was in 1st grade. And I also get to help people out there, which makes me really happy and makes all my other friends really happy as well. I'm Harshini Kumar, a student in the Edison Public Schools.
So I'd like to say how awesome she is, but I think that video really tells you what a superstar. You know, this is really what we're trying to showcase here with our Edison Zone, about just these wonderful students that we have in our schools. Not only authors, creating a foundation, you know, and just, I don't know how often we find a roller skater in our schools, and never mind just any roller skater, but someone who's won multiple awards. And so we are so proud of you that you encompass this Edison Zone, you represent our school district. We would like to provide you with this certificate of recognition for our Edison Zone. So congratulations. Now, I'm told I might regret this, but she's going to say a few words, so we're going to see what happens. Go ahead.
I would just like to say that that video came out really well, and I would like to give out thanks to Mr. Brandon Euling for making such a fabulous video. And I want to give, first of all, thanks to Dr. O'Malley and the Board of Education for providing this opportunity for other kids like me to just show what we got. It's a huge honor to stand up here, and also like to give thanks to our very own principal, Mr. Duggan, Vice Principal, Mr. Pat Vowett, my teachers and parents for showing outstanding support across my journey, and my 4th grade teacher, Ms. Riesfeld, who's sitting in the audience right now, who's continuing to help me unfold my writing skills and presenting skills. I'd like to give a big shout out to Live, Love, Skate, where we skate to live and live to skate, and they really helped me gain confidence and become the skater I am today. And I never realized how important writing was until I realized whenever I write and whenever I speak, it makes a big impact. And for other kids out there, I'd just like to say, have big ideas, dream big, take small steps, and strive for excellence, and you will achieve your goal. Thank you.
So I think the real award goes to you as parents. You've raised a wonderful child, spectacular, and I don't know if either one of you would like to say, I don't know if you'd be able to.
I don't think she left any room to thank anyone else now. As usual, I think next time I should go first. But I just want to say that actually we are really proud of her for all her achievements, and what we really, most important thing is that she always took special initiatives, and where she wanted to stand up for herself, I think we're very proud for that. From the Menlo Park School principal and vice principal and the teachers in Menlo Park School, they always presented from the 1st grade a lot of opportunities for her to excel. I think that's a very key thing. So thank you so much, even to her already. And thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Congratulations again.
So we're going to take a very quick 5-minute break, and we'll be coming back to go through our regular agenda items. All right, let's continue. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, so next up we have the approval of the minutes and the board secretary's report. So do I have a motion? Okay, Shivi and Mr. Brescher.
Mrs. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. DiStefano?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
He's talking.
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mrs. Madiker?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroney?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So public comments are resolutions only. So public, if you have any comments about the resolutions, come to the podium, your name, address, and 6 minutes. Thank you.
Bill Brunner, 215 Loring Avenue. On the memorandum of agreement between the education and law enforcement officials, it doesn't say in here what they're going to be paid, but based on Wednesday's meeting, I assume it's the $60 that you talked about on Wednesday?
No, it's not.
$60 an hour?
So, Mr. Brennan, this is actually an agreement with law enforcement that we approve every year. It's our agreement of how we conduct ourselves with the police, not the actual police. So it's with the prosecutor's office, with any kind of lockdown.
This isn't
No,
on
that's a
our
separate
security
agreement. This is
thing.
just our annual agreement with law enforcement of how we handle different situations.
My apologies.
Any other public comments? Go ahead.
Anjay Shah from Finacle Street, Edison. I would like to see that any way we can retain Dr. O'Malley in current post. I see that he had delivered lots of good things for the Edison Township, and I see that he is willing to resign or whatever the reason he is leaving. So anyway, I request the board to retain him. So that's my urge.
Okay, thank you.
And whoever has, in past, whoever has supported, I mean, it could be political or non, but strongly urge that because education makes a big difference for the township and township property value as well. So as a concerned citizen, and I'd like to urge that Dr. O'Malley can be retained. So whenever the voting takes place, I urge all of you, particularly Mr. President. All right?
Thank you.
Good evening, Matt Revnak, Vice President ETA, 2 Ethel Road. Just one question about the calendar. I know you have the calendar makeup days on April 2nd and 3rd in their single session. I know it's being a little presumptive, but if we get the snowstorm that they're saying and we need to take extra days, is that planned for?
Yeah, that's what we're going to get to, and we'll talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Yes.
Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle. I basically know the process, but I would like you to explain, for the purpose of the calendar, the TV, the process of the superintendent's merit goals, how they're brought about and the purpose of them, because I know many people would ask, but they're not here to ask, so many times I'll ask for their.
You want to spot?
So the process that I've gone through over the 9 years that I've been here is that the board usually holds a retreat somewhere in June. It's been around June, usually on a Saturday, to talk about the issues in the district, and those issues are then narrowed down to somewhere between 2 and 4 goals. Over the course of the summer, the administration takes those overall arching goals, and district goals and superintendent goals are sort of the same in this particular area. And we present those goals for recommendation for the board to approve, either at our August, September, it depends on the time of the year. After those goals are approved, they actually have to be approved by the county superintendent. She has, in this particular case, she has the authority to change the criteria if it's a qualitative. She has the ultimate authority to change those goals. We submit them to her for her approval. Once we have her approval, then we can move forward with that. Then we usually do a mid-year review to let the board know where we are. That usually occurs January or February, depending on the time of the year. And then at the end of the year, most of the goals, in particular, except for the ones that are here tonight, usually take a course of a year. So if something's quantitative, it usually requires that there's test scores. And as you know, test scores usually come in later in the year, if not towards the summer. So once those goals are achieved, then the process is the board recognizes, based upon the metrics that they approved, what would be, if that was met, and if that was met, they vote on them, and then it goes to the county superintendent for her approval to submit for payment, in this particular case for the superintendent's goals.
Okay. And these goals are over and above what your pending contract asks?
It is actually part of the contract that is stipulated within my contract.
To do these the goals?
The dollar amount, percentage amount is, the goals change every year.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, please.
My name is Tarendra Lakankar, 192 Evergreen Road. I'm a president of the Market Tenants Corp, from where around 80 to 100 students coming to the various elementary and middle school and high schools. I submitted my request 6 months before.
Excuse me, this is for resolutions only. Are you talking about anything pertaining to this resolution?
No,
or no,
this is different comments.
Okay, so you have your chance. At the end, we'll be open for public comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, Ketke. I live on One Keene Court, Edison. So this pertains to the calendar year for next school year. There's one allotted day for snow days.
Excuse me, this is for this year's calendar. And next year's calendar, we're going to talk at the next meeting.
Okay.
If you have anything other than these resolutions, you have your chance to come back. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for understanding. Yes, Andy.
Andrew Heibel, 114 Howard Avenue. I know you said on Wednesday you were talking about the insurance agent. Is that on the agenda, or that's not being voted on tonight?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments about resolutions? Okay.
Hi, my name is Monica Parikh. I live on 25 Sonia Court. I just would like to know whether we are renewing the contract for Dr. O'Malley for coming year. Like, I know his contract is ending on 2019, so just would like to know.
Are we renewing Dr. O'Malley's contract? Is that the question?
Yes.
It's not on the agenda, and right now on the agenda is in the personnel section is where the resignation of Dr. O'Malley's position at the end of his contract.
So, end of this meeting, you mean?
Yes, it's right in the part of the agenda in the personnel section.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Rakesh Sinha, Midwood Avenue. So again, I wanted to talk about Dr. O'Malley. So I want to make sure that, what I can talk about and what is not on the agenda.
So right now on the agenda is Dr. O'Malley has a resignation at the end of his contract. So that's what you can talk about. If you have any other comments, you can come back at the end of the meeting. Is that correct?
Okay, so I will start speaking, and if it seems that I'm going out of his scope, okay. Please stop me. Okay. So I still don't quite understand what that means, but I'm going to assume the worst, and I'm going to assume that you are going to vote tonight to possibly terminate his contract right away. And in my opinion, that's going to be a colossal mistake. I have sent children to this school district for over 15 years, and he's not perfect. No candidate is perfect, but he's definitely the best superintendent that we have had in 15 years, and it's not even close. and I'm the person who sends him all these long emails saying about all the things that change. But we need to make a distinction between what are the things that should be changed about the school, and can we replace him with a better candidate. And if you terminate his contract, send him home with full salary, and find a candidate that's not as good as him, that's a disservice to students in this community. Now I know that vote is going to happen behind closed doors in private session, but these things always come out. And please keep in mind that you are all part of this community, and this is a vote that you will have to explain for next 10 years. When you meet a new neighbor, you go to a school concert, you go to a sporting event, and I hope that you are going to vote on issues based on issues that are substantive and not frivolous. So I will give an example. When the James Monroe School burned down, the fact that those 500 students and their families were not disrupted for 2 weeks, rather they were disrupted only for 2 days, that matters. What Dr. O'Malley goes and says to the newspaper, in the big scheme of things, that does not matter. The fact that he streamlined the curriculum and he introduced these courses, and there are more students who can take advanced courses, and my child is one of them who benefited from that. And it makes a material difference to a college admission. That matters. Which board member does not like which board member? The 16,000 students in this district and their families could not care less about that. Okay. So, and when you finally decide to replace him, again, I hope that that process is going to be thoughtful and deliberate. It should be inclusive of all the board members, parents, and parents of different background, parents who have children who are going to honors and AP, parents of regular ed, parents of special ed kids, parents of kids who are probably struggling a little bit, and definitely the teachers and paraprofessionals. And it won't be impulsive the way the council's appointment has happened. And I don't know the council. He may be the most qualified council that we could find. And there is some dispute whether all board members knew about him or not. But what is not under dispute is that he did not have a proper interview. He has not disclosed him. He has not done the full disclosure. And that's a tremendous disservice to him, because what it means is that half the board members and half the people in this town.
This is not part of the resolution. I'm sorry, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So I will just say that I hope that
you can come back and talk about any other things, but right now it's the resolutions only.
Okay.
So you talk about Dr. O'Malley, whatever, that's part of the resolution, so you can continue to talk about anything else. You can come back and talk about it.
I will just say, so I won't talk about the council. I just hope that when we hire the super, we hire him in a long and deliberate process where we include all the board members, we include all the parties, where his appointment makes a difference. And if we don't follow that process, then what's going to happen is that the new super who gets hired, half the board members are reflexively going to oppose everything that he says. The board will turn into a political circus, and all of us are going to be losers in that, and I hope that doesn't happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But I just want to make you aware, I do not know if you're aware that Dr. O'Malley has submitted his resignation letter. So that's why it's on the agenda right now that he's stepping down at the end of his contract, which is June 30th, 2019. June 30th, 2019. Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, see none. Can I have a resolution? I'm going to break down this. Let's talk. Yeah, let's talk about the second one, the administration as well, because we know there's a calendar. The calendar is on the agenda, and there's snow coming. So let's talk about this and see if we can amend the calendar at this meeting, so we don't have to have another special meeting to talk about this. So, Dr. O'Malley, you want to take the lead?
Just yes, we have some impending snow. We watched the forecast grow as the day went along today, and it didn't look like it was going to get any better but worse. So what I'd like to recommend to the board is that we add Wednesday, April 4th as a single session day in case we need it. If we do not need it, then we can clearly communicate that to the community that day. But I think, given the forecast that I saw today, I believe it's, as someone said earlier, impending that we may need that. So I'd like to recommend to the board that we add April 4th as a single session day to amend the current calendar before you.
Okay, any other comments to the board about the calendar? Okay. All right. So,
you need a motion.
Yeah, I need a motion to.
Motion, the first and the second.
I need a motion to amend the calendar, right? Do I have a motion? Okay. Mrs. Ward, do I have a second? Mr. DiStefano? Do we need to call it? Just for the calendar, roll call?
Great, so this is just to amend the
Just amend the calendar,
motion.
yes.
Okay.
So if you say yes, that means we're going to add one more snow day. If we need to use it, we're going to use it. If we don't need to use it, we're not going to use it. Okay? So we're clear? If you vote yes, we're adding one half-day snow day to the calendar.
April 4th.
April 4th.
Okay, ready?
All right, call it.
Mrs. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. DiStefano?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mrs. Madiker?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroney?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Now can I have a motion to approve the personnel agenda, which is a personnel report? Can I have a motion? Mr. Brescher? Second. Mrs. Ward? Call it. Just personnel report.
Mrs. Patel?
Yes to everything except accepting Dr. O'Malley's resignation. I do not accept his resignation, and I urge him to reconsider.
Mr. DiStefano?
Yes on the personnel report, and also with the exception of Dr. O'Malley's resignation, which I do not accept, and I hope that Dr. O'Malley and the board reconsider, and that Dr. O'Malley stays with the district and continues his good work.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes on the entire personnel.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mrs. Madiker?
Yes, with the exception of Dr. O'Malley's resignation. He's been an asset to the district, and with a clear conscience, I cannot let him go. I would echo what Paul said. I would want the board and Dr. O'Malley to reconsider and make this work.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroney?
Yeah, I am also saying yes to everything, but no to the resignation of Dr. O'Malley. I think that the way this board is functioning right now is questionable at best, and I fear that any future search for another superintendent would reflect that dysfunction, and I think that it is beneficial to keep somebody who's been in the job and knows the building that has to go on moving forward. To have to come in and train somebody right now is not prudent.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion to accept the resignation does not pass. All of the other motions pass.
All right, the next is administration. So that includes Superintendent Marigold, the newly amended revised calendar, the settlement agreement, the sidebar agreement, memorandum of agreement with law enforcement, National Autism Awareness Month. But before I open up for a vote, I just want to state my position on the marigolds. I am going to vote no on the marigolds. The reason of no is purely procedural. It's purely procedural. I'm not saying Dr. O'Malley meet the goals. I'm not saying that he did not meet the goals. When you look at the performances, that is always done at the end of the school, at the end of the school year, when you put everything together, including the marigolds and the annual performance. So I like to vote no for that and push the marigold discussion into the year-end review with the other performance indicators and other 2 marigolds. That's the only reason I'm voting no. It's just purely procedural. I have consulted with Dr. Heelan, who's here today. In the past 2 years, he was the president of the school board, and the year before, he was the vice president of the school board. I just want to make sure that we have not had any prior practices like this, that you just grant the marigold on a piecemeal. I have to apologize at the last meeting. I thought that was a progress report of these marigolds. I did not know this will be a resolution today. I apologize. So that's my position on this particular item for tonight's vote. This is my position. Okay. Any other board members have any comments?
I would just like to make one comment if I could. Yeah. I would just like to get an interpretation from the attorney regarding what Mr. Shi just said.
You want to?
Whether interpreted.
Is there an actual procedure or what the law states regarding when someone completes a marigold? So what is the process? And does it matter if it was October, May, August, January?
There's no specific legal requirement as to when you bring your marigolds. Upon review of your contract, it doesn't reference whether you bring them individually or collectively. So under the terms of the contract, marigolds, it just references all in one section and broken down by each year. And once you have submitted them to the board for voting, then it goes to the executive county superintendent. Typically, they're brought all together, but there's no legal prohibition as to them being brought separately.
Okay, any other comments? With that said, so can I have a motion? Yes, go ahead.
So if I heard correctly, the merit goals can be paid on a piecemeal individually as well as collectively. Is that what I heard? Right. So that means there's nothing wrong for the merit goals to be here then? I mean, for the merit...
Legally, I don't think there's anything wrong. There's no legal provision.
So what's the procedural thing that you're talking about?
Because when you talk about in practice, when I've been working in my company for 25 years, when we do the review, when we talk about bonuses, we all do at the end of the school year, okay? This particular goal, could be that for a particular marigold, you achieved it at one point, then the remaining of the school year, that goal could slip. In this particular one, it probably won't happen, but technically speaking, when the data is provided, you need to verify it. So I'm not saying the data is incorrect, but technically speaking, that needs to be verified.
I mean, if it's
okay. So my position is that's what I'm saying. The only reason is procedural. I want to put everything bundled together in one package at the end of the year. That's all.
Yeah, no, I just had one comment because, qualitative data is open to interpretation. Quantitative data is pretty much, you know what it is. So I think this particular merit goal was more like a quantitative information rather than qualitative. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes.
I'd like to add something. I think we all were at the caucus meeting and we saw the agenda, and this was listed as a resolution item. I don't understand how that could be confused. You helped put the agenda together with Dr. O'Malley. I just don't understand how something like this could be confused and pulled at the last minute.
There were a lot of, I'm not pulling it, I just telling
I'm
my
sorry.
vote.
Right.
Okay, and the
Right.
reason for that, okay?
Okay.
So, and I said, beginning of the meeting, I apologize, I was not aware this could be a resolution. I thought that was a progress report of how things going, okay? That's what my explanation was. I'm not pulling the agenda, I'm not calling for, table this agenda item.
Okay.
I just say my position and why I'm voting no to it.
Understood.
Okay, so can I have a motion for the administration items, A through F?
You want a resolution on all of administration items?
Yes, a
Down
motion.
through curriculum and instruction?
No curriculum instruction, just administration.
Just administration.
A through F.
You need a resolution.
I need a motion right now.
Motion, okay, I'll motion.
Mrs. Ward, do I have a second? Okay, Mr. DiStefano.
Mrs. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. DiStefano?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here at the caucus meeting, and Ralph had some questions on the merit goal, so I'm going to abstain specifically on that. As to the criteria, we were going to fit more kids in, but whether we were lowering the bar or how that was happening, that was brought up initially, and Ralph never gave me an answer as to what the outcome of that was. So I'm going to abstain.
You're abstaining for the whole or just for that one motion?
Yeah, I'm going to abstain for the whole, because I missed that whole section.
Thank you. Mrs. Peng?
Are we talking about the merit thing or just the?
Administration from A through F.
Where's A? Oh.
2, A through F.
I'm going to be abstain on A and yes to the rest.
So abstain on A and yes to the remaining items.
Mrs. Madiker?
Yes on everything, including A, which is the superintendent's merit goals. Yes on everything.
Mrs. Ward?
We have never evaluated the goals of the superintendent piecemeal. We have always done it sitting down together and go over the whole thing. So I abstain on A and yes on everything else.
Mrs. Maroney?
Yes on everything.
Mr. Shi?
Yes on everything, no on item A, and the reason I stated.
Give me a second. I have
422.
422 on item. No, 412 on item.
On the merit goals?
On the merit goals.
It's 422.
You have three abstentions.
4. Yeah, 413. 4 yes,
favor.
1 no, 3 abstentions.
Yes, correct.
So it fails. It needs 5 votes as a personnel item.
Yeah.
Could you say that again?
So, as this is a personnel item related to the superintendent's contract, under the law, it requires 5 votes or a majority of the full membership. And since there are only 4 affirmative votes in favor, the merit goal resolution fails.
Okay, so A does not pass, the rest all pass.
Correct. Next, can I, we're going down the, I'll just bundle them together. Curriculum, instruction, including park testing schedule, field trip approval, professional development, and pupil services. We have out of district placement, professional services 2017 is 1, and our finance resolutions. So 3, 4, 5 altogether: curriculum, pupil service, and finance. Do I have a motion? Mrs. Maroney, second. Mrs. Brescher?
Mrs. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. DiStefano?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mrs. Madiker?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroney?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
All passed.
Announcement by the President, upcoming meetings. Our next caucus meeting is April 18th at the Education Center at 7 p.m. And our next public meeting will be at the new addition of the Woodbrook Elementary School, the new addition. We're going to have it, right? So looking forward to the new section of the Woodbrook. Now we have 3 committee reports. Finance Facilities Committee, Mr. Brescher.
The Finance and Facilities Committee met on 3/9/18 at 9:30 at the Education Center. In attendance was myself, Jerry Shi, Paul DiStefano, Dr. O'Malley, Dan Michaud, Ramon Rivera. The committee focused on the proposed 2018-2019 budget. After reviewing the current proposed budget, the discussion centered around school security and classroom space. The committee directed the administration to add $1.3 million to the budget to fund the armed police officers in the schools for the next year. In addition, they added $2.5 million to the fund to construct a modular classroom at the FDR Roosevelt School for preschool disabled students. Also added was $160,000 to construct bulletproof vestibules at both high schools and $425,000 to replace all classroom door handles to allow the staff to lock their classroom doors from the inside to lock out intruders. The committee directed the administration to cut enough from the budget to cover the cost of the vestibules and the door handles. The cuts were made from the elementary textbook account and direct educational supply account. The meeting adjourned at 10:54 a.m.
Thank you, Mr. Brescher. Next up is the Policy and Personnel Committee. This is a little delayed. This was a February meeting. So, Mrs. Pan?
Yeah, Policy and Personnel Committee had a meeting on February 1st at 4 p.m. at Education Center. In attendance, it's myself, Ralph Errico, Falguni Patel, Dr. O'Malley, and Jerry Shi. The committee discussed adopting new and revised policies, including board member use of social networks, military leave, student tracking device, lead testing water in school, security of school premises, electronic surveillance in school buildings and on school grounds, breakfast offer versus serve, bus driver, bus aid responsibility, and use of electronic signature. The committee recommended revising the bylaw, conduct of board meeting by adding board president with superintendent and business administrator to prepare a meeting agenda. Recommended to change the lead testing policy from every 6 years to every 5 years. The committee discussed the district's attendance policy for high school, middle school, and elementary schools, the need for doctor notes for short sick days, and recommended discussion at the full board. The committee also discussed the open positions in the districts for the next school year. The meeting adjourned at around 5:20 p.m. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Pan.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I kind of have a question statement. I have been reading through the policies and procedures, and I was very surprised on one of the very first ones. It states that we're supposed to get Admiral Perry Day off sometime in early September.
What? I'm sorry?
Admiral Perry Day, I think it is. And it also says that every 8th grader at graduation should get a copy of the Declaration of Independence and Constitution. So I wanted to know if that is done.
Yes.
Okay, wasn't sure about that. But what I'm suggesting is that there's some kind of frivolous, irrelevant stuff in some of the policies that admittedly most of us have never read through, and I really don't mind reading through this and gleaning out and bringing to the attention of the committee when there's something like Admiral Perry Day that we're supposed to take off according to the bylaws. So just wanted to know if it was okay, if you had a problem, if I, glean through and bring it to your attention.
Yeah, sure. Yes, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
It's a very thick policy. All right, so the next is the Safety Committee meeting. I will go over that. I think I touched about this at the last meeting, so this is just the formal minutes. So the Safety Committee, it took place on March 5th at 4 p.m. Education Center. In attendance were Shannon Penn, Ralph Arrico, Richard Brescher, Dr. O'Malley, myself, Chief Bryan, Deputy Chief Michkowski, Joe Shannon, Mike Semino, Mahesh Bhagia from the Mayor's Office, and Teacher Union President Jeff Bowden. The board approved the enhanced security measure at the last board meeting. That was talking about February. However, due to the limited resources at the Edison Police Department and the competing needs, the sign-up to have armed off-duty police officers covering Edison schools was low. The committee agreed to increase the hourly rate from 40 to 60 based on Dr. O'Malley's recommendation. However, the overall cost should be capped at around $618K as the previous budgeted from March to the end of school year. If the cost goes over the cap, the additional cost needs to be approved by the board. The committee agreed that having the current coverage is not sustainable and needs to look into hiring retired officers or other measures for the next school year, as well as having security guards in the middle and elementary schools. The committee also discussed other long-term measures, including bulletproof the doors in the high schools, radio directly connected to the police department, fixing locks of the classroom, devices to lock the classroom doors, phones in the classroom, etc. The meeting adjourned at about 5:30 p.m. Now we open up for board member open discussions.
I just had one comment to
Yes.
make. I think you missed the lawyer. He was also there at your safety committee.
Sorry,
yeah.
I missed Ramon.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right, I gotta add it on.
Thank you.
Yep. So open discussions from board members. Yes, Mrs. Maroney.
Did you call me Mr. Shi? I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, I wanted to congratulate the TJ Orchestra for their performance this evening. They were gorgeous, so talented and together, you know. And you should hear a middle school group like this in September when they start. So congratulations, they were outstanding. And Harshini Askumar, amazing story. And I just want to say that in our multicultural atmosphere we have here in Edison, so many of our children are encouraged by their families, by the role modeling that the families do, to be engaged in community service, to create foundations, to help children in other countries. These are the kind of responsibilities and community awareness that make Edison a great community. And when you see it in somebody this young, it just really makes your heart swell. So good choice on that. Also, speaking of community relations, Thursday night, one more time, Edison High, 7 p.m. The Community Relations Committee will have its first meeting. I hope to have a good crowd there. And finally, today, Mrs. Ward and I had an opportunity. We were invited, well, all of us were invited to Author Day at Martin Luther King, where author, illustrator Rosemary Wells of the Max and Ruby stories addressed the children. And she was amazing. She gave a wonderful presentation with, a movie about how she creates her art. And the children, I was there for the kindergarten session, and you're not sure how much are they getting, but you could tell by the questions that the children asked afterwards that they got it, and they were excited to go home and try some of this artwork. So it was very inspirational. And finally, I want to say on that note that when I was the administrator at the ELC and the FDR building, when our kids would be a little off the rails and we couldn't kind of unify them, We'd put on the Max and Ruby movies, and it was like magic. So to meet Rosemary Wells today, what a thrill for our kids. Thank you to the teachers who were involved in bringing her in, and thanks to Principal Diane Wilton for another Martin Luther King great achievement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. No, Mr. Maroney, I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Brescia.
I just have a simple question, and I don't know if it's to the president or the administration, but I asked one time how the seating assignment went, and I never really got an answer. And then I was seated this year on that side, and then I missed the caucus meeting, and I came back, and I'm on this side. Do I stay on this side, or do we move? Is it ever?
I can say, and Frank is also here, that in a seating, the board president decides at the beginning of the, after the reorg meeting. So this is not the, right now, this is not the order I decided. I do not know why the seating was changed, so I have no explanation. And the reason when I arrange the seatings are the junior people on the side just continue coming in. The most senior people are in the middle. That's why Mrs. Warder was sitting over there, because she's the most senior board members. I do not know why the seating was changed last time and came here today. It's going to change it again. So I don't know. It was not when I was designing. I hope that we'll go back to the seating that I assigned at the very beginning of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Ward.
I would like to ditto the program at MLK today. It was, I went home smiling. I smiled all the way home. There was no way you could get that woman's instruction out of your brain, and it's still in it. She was so precise, and she talked to the children, never talked down to them, brought them up to her level, and you could tell that they were enthused, and that it was really a marvelous program. I've never seen a program like that. I think every school should have that lady in their school. Those children were just, I sat in for the 4th and 5th grades. So they were just as spellbound as the little ones, and I was wondering how the little ones had fared. But it was just a marvelous, marvelous program. Bring that lady back to every school in this township, because the children could use that enthusiasm. She had a child in her program on the screen who did exactly the kind of work she did, with the exact precision. And it was either a 5 or a 7-year-old, I'm not sure. But she assured those children that they could do that work. If this young child could do it, they could do it. I was so amazed. I thought, I don't know why this woman isn't an art teacher in our elementary schools, and a writing teacher. She writes and she illustrates, and she's an amazing lady. And I also have to say thank you to the TJ Orchestra today, because my children went all through Edison schools, all 3 boys in the music program, elementary, middle school, and high school. And I'm going to tell you something. I remember my boys when they would come to do middle school, not high school. High school, they're cocky. Middle school, they would be so nervous at supper. And one of them forgot his reed one night, and they were just all so nervous about performing. These children performed beautifully. You don't know how nervous they are, but because I had 3 boys coming through this program, I know how nervous they were, and they were wonderful tonight. So congratulations, and also congratulations to Harshini. She's above and beyond. So it's still wonderful to see our children performing and doing marvelous things. And thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other board members? I just want to, yep. Okay, I just want to echo Mrs. Ward and Mrs. Maroney about the concert, about the band, about the orchestra over here. That's why we have these feeder programs into our high schools, And our high schools, the music program, the band program is probably the best in the nation. So keep up the good work and continue to feed our high schools with all these musicians. So I just have a statement I'd like to make. So I'd like to say a few words regarding the sometimes heated exchange between board members over the last couple of meetings. You probably have seen the video, you're probably in attendance. There were a lot of heated discussions. When I was re-elected to serve as a member of this board and to serve its president, I made a commitment to the taxpayers and parents of the district to change the status quo because the status quo wasn't producing the results they deserve. Our goal is simple. 1, to expand the quality of services to our students, and 2, to ensure we do not overburden our taxpayers. We are faced with several daunting challenges. We have an overcrowding problem that has not been solved for over a decade and remains unsolved because our administrators say we don't have the money to address it. We lack a full-day kindergarten programs because our administrators say we don't have the money to address it. We have a drug epidemic devastating our students and their families, and we don't have the money to address it. We need to boost security to ensure our kids are safe, and the proposed plan that will cost an additional $3 million per year, money we do not have. To make matters worse, even our emergency fund are almost out of money. Our administrators tell us we don't have the money for our most pressing needs and top priorities. In fact, in order to function at our current levels, the 2018-2019 proposed budget increase is about 6%, much of which will be shouldered by the taxpayers. One of the few tools that we have is to cut fraud, waste, abuse, and fat. We pay over $107 million over 300 vendors. In January this year, one of the district vendors was arrested for submitting falsified invoices to the Edison Board of Education. We cannot continue to function as we have in the past without real oversight. We are not spending monopoly money, and the money we spend is not our inheritance. We must ensure that we are getting the most for every dollar we spend and direct that money to the classroom, not the vendors. This brings us to the change in board attorney. The majority of the board voted to change the attorney. I am sure Mr. Bush is a fine attorney. The fact is, according to our BA, the district paid his firm $503,074.12 last year at a rate of $145 per hour. You can do your calculation, 8 hours a day. That amounts to 433 days in a 365-day calendar. At the same time, the district has paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees to attorneys sued in the district. In fact, last month, the board authorized a settlement of one single case that included a $140,000 attorney fee. $140,000 that was not budgeted. I'm not questioning the bills the Bush firm sent or the quality work performed, but those are the facts. In making this change, various board members participated in information sessions with different attorneys at the state conferences or thereafter. Some board members expressed their concerns of a conflict of interest on the part of Mr. Bush since he became the mayor in a neighboring town and excused his firm from representing the Metuchen Board of Education due to potential conflict of interest. Other board members wanted to keep the Bush law firm since Mr. Bush was a friend or professional mentor or had provided legal service to their child. I understand that change is difficult, but we cannot allow personal or professional relationship to dictate which vendor will serve our schools. If we can save $1, we must do that, because we cannot afford to raise taxes by 6%, nor will we sacrifice the service we provide to our children. With this in mind, I am asking our Finance and Facility Committee with a new responsibility. I'm asking that committee to look into the appropriateness of reviewing each of the district vendor contracts for efficiency and cost on a rolling basis. I'm asking the committee to make recommendations where we can save money without sacrificing services. Let me repeat, without sacrificing services. I'm also asking the committee to review the appropriateness of implementing a performance audit of the district. I understand that changes will subject me to additional attacks, including by board members, including some members on this board. Luckily, I have a thick skin and no ambition of running higher offices, and my only duty is to the parents and taxpayers of this district. Finally, a message to all our vendors. A message to all our vendors. Give our students and taxpayers the best deal, or you will be replaced. One more time. Give our students and taxpayers the best deal, or you will be replaced. Thank you.
I have a comment to
yes,
make.
Comments.
So I also did a little bit of research on our legal spending, and there's something on the New Jersey Department of Education website, and I would encourage all of you to visit the website and look at, it's called the Taxpayers Guide to Education Spending, and it gives you district by district information on how much spending we do on, especially legal funding. And I saw that the latest data for this year is not available, but for last year it's available. And it says that Edison paid 0.02% of its total budget on legal fees, which is $25 per student. And I also asked our business administrator to give me information on how much we paid the Bush Law Group. And I got these numbers from him. For the 2016 and 17 school year, we paid the Bush Law Group about $302,000. And for the 2017 and 18 school year, which is still not over yet, we paid the group $258,000. So I don't know where the discrepancy is, but there seems to be some discrepancy in the numbers.
This is the list I asked Dan to send to me the second week I'm in the as sworn as the
Are you talking about the school year or the calendar year?
This is a 2017 spending for all the vendors.
No, that you're talking about a calendar year. Let's talk about a school year.
I'm talking about 2017, the calendar year, how much we paid. That's what I asked.
So for the calendar year of 2017, we paid about $360,000.
Look at this. This is 2017, all the lists over here, and I'll find you where that is.
Yeah, let's discuss this at the next meeting. Let's
okay.
Make sure. And also
it's 503, 07412 legal services.
I mean, that legal service
Bush
is probably
Law Group LLC. So I have full confidence in Dan, who has been working in our district. This is a number that
that 500 number is a composite number that also includes maybe some of the lawsuits that we were with Teresa and all that, maybe some of the lawsuits that we had to pay off. Maybe that's what it is. But to the Bush law firm,
that's a whole thing that we paid.
Yeah, no.
In the year of 2017,
we paid. I don't think we paid that much. But anyway, we'll ask Dan to clarify. Dan can clarify next time.
This is a list of 300. My request is send me all the vendors the district paid in 2017 over $10,000. This is a list of 300 of them, and this is one of it on it.
I just want to say that I helped put that together. So that is correct, but it covers 2 school years, so let's not get lost. So it's 2 school years that are included in that 2017, almost like your taxes. It covers 2 years.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying this is 2017 calendar year.
Yeah, but it's 2 years. It's not one school year. It's 2 school years.
I don't think we do
I mean, we don't have.
What?
I mean, everything that we do is based on the school year. I don't know why we would run a report based on a calendar year.
That's what I asked, because we are beginning the new year. I'm asking for last year.
Right, but that's not how the board works, right?
Well,
we don't use calendar year data.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the budget is, but this is what we paid. How much last year?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Just a mathematical question. When we talk about the whole entire school year, and we talk about the whole entire calendar year, can anybody tell me how many days are in each one of those calendars? Do the same amount of days? Oh, okay. I just wanted to be clear on that, that's all.
You know, there are seasonal things.
Seasonal,
Like,
but
yes,
a
things-
year, 365 days, no matter where you put it, is going to come out with roughly the same number.
The way it's done for, you know, when you do a budget for a school year, you don't do a budget from January to December. You do a budget for the entire school year. So that's how you need to assess all your costs.
You can
You
do your
don't
budget
assess your
anyway.
cost. You know, it has to be apples to apples. It cannot be like, you know, you take one from here and one from there.
365 days in a year is 365 days in a year, no matter how you want to cut it.
Not for the school district, it's not.
School district. Year is a year.
The request is send me all the lists, all the vendors. We paid $10,000 in 2017. That's the request, and this is the number. 300 of them. Any other board members?
Yeah, I have a few comments.
Yes.
Since we're talking about attorney fees, and since earlier you mentioned how the merit goals shouldn't be broken up because that's not the way the board did it in the past. I've only been on the board less than a year, so I reached out to a few more seasoned board members and board members that sat in these chairs in the past, and we've never had our board attorney sit at committee meetings. And it seems that our new attorney has been at every committee meeting. And that seems to be a necessary expense that's never been incurred by the board before, and I would ask why.
Okay. Any other questions? I can answer that.
That's the first one.
Okay, so our attorney just came on board. So I want him to get his feet wet. I want him to understand what are the things that's going on in the district. The committees are the ones we talk about things before it's submitted to the board. So that's why I invited him to all those committees for the first time, so he knows the board members, he can know what's the issues we're discussing, so he can understand what's going on. That is the only reason. I do not know if other attorneys, because the Bush law firm has been in the district for more than 10 years, so they probably do not need to attend all these things because it's been ongoing. But for someone who just coming in, they need to know what's going on in order to represent the district better. That's the reason.
Okay, and you mentioned reviewing all the contracts for the vendors.
Correct.
Have we received the contract from our new attorney yet?
He's just preparing it.
I handed it in today.
Handed in today?
Yes.
Now, according to the state rules, wasn't it supposed to be submitted to the board 10 days prior to the attorney's first sitting with the board?
I didn't know what that reference was. I handed the contract in today to the business administrator, the deputy business administrator who's sitting in today, assistant, along with the accompanying documents. I'm not aware of any specific requirement, and I'm still working on the additional contracts for the other two law firms which were part of that resolution.
Okay, but it goes back to the fact that, you know, you wanted to replace the attorney, and we get that. But
it's not me, please.
I know, it's not you, Jerry.
It's 5 board members.
Right.
Okay, stop saying it's
me.
But
at the last meeting, Mr. Rivera stated that he was not interviewed, he spoke to you at Wegmans, and that there might have been one other board member present. So if our attorney was not interviewed and only spoke to you and one other board member, how did 5 board members come to a decision that this was the right thing for this district?
This is information gathering session. Did you interview Jonathan Bush?
No, I wasn't on the board at the time.
Okay. Who interviewed Jonathan Bush? We have all these vendors. How many people interviewed them?
How about sticking to the question,
no,
Jerry?
I'm just saying, we have 300 vendors just on this list.
We're going to have to assume that the prior board members did their due diligence and hired the vendors as they should have.
We just
the
passed
question is, how
passed,
does one person interview or not interview an attorney, speak to him in a supermarket, and then he becomes the new board attorney for supposedly a contract that's worth $500,000?
It's not going to be $500,000. Somebody else charge $500,000. I don't think I'm going to watch his bill to make sure he doesn't charge $500,000.
Ah.
Okay, because I said all the vendors, including him, give us the best service, give us the best deal to the taxpayers and the students, or you will be replaced. That includes him. No pressure.
You still haven't answered the question.
Yeah, I can answer your question. So, do you
Please explain the process.
Do you think it is better to interview somebody who you don't know at his or her house rather than rather than meeting the person in a public place?
What are you talking about, Jerry?
You know what I'm talking about.
Why don't you explain it to us?
We have a district employee that was interviewed at the supervisor's house. Okay? At least this is done in a public area that's open to the public. That's how so you have no problem interview or meet people in somebody's house, but you have issue of meeting people in a public area. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm trying to say that one person shouldn't make a decision for the whole board. That all of the board members should have met the attorneys who you were interviewing, and we all should have had the opportunity to make a decision.
You want to say it, but I can get into it. Yeah.
So, just through the board chair, I went over this at the caucus meeting, and I'll go over it again. There's no legal requirement that the board or all members of the board come together and interview your counsel. It's the prior board counsel was hired in the same exact fashion that my firm and I were hired. Exact same fashion. There was no solicitation of proposals, no solicitation of any qualifications. He was hired through the same exact process that I was hired in. I don't know if he was interviewed by a full majority of the board or any members of the board when he was hired, but I do know when I looked at the resolutions, he was hired in the exact same way that I was hired. There's nothing illegal or improper or unethical about me as an attorney or a professional who provides you with the service meeting with any board member in any public place to discuss what I do and for us to get to know each other. There's no requirement that we meet in this school, we meet at the district, we meet at Jerry's office, we meet at a supermarket. There's no legal requirement for that. It's just a matter of the two people are meeting, or three, or however many, but as long as I'm not meeting with a majority of the board, 5 or more members, that would be improper. That would be an illegal meeting that the board would convene outside of the purview of what the Open Public Meetings Act requires. So we went over this at the caucus, we talked about it, now we're talking about the same thing again. I've already delivered my legal opinion on it. If you want to check and call school boards, you can. I'm sure they will tell you that any professional can be hired in the way that I was hired and the way that my predecessor was hired, which was simply by meeting, talking to people, and having the board members vote. And the last issue was, when did the 5 board members decide? They decided when they appropriately should have at a board meeting together, and they made the decision.
I want to add something here. So, if you said 1 board member, that's not true. There were 3 board members at that occasion have meeting the attorney. You, Mr. DiStefano, was invited to the meeting. You could not attend because you had a family emergency that day, because you had to take care of your daughter. Right. So you were invited to attend at that same occasion. You didn't go there because you had a family thing. But I can tell you, there are other board members there. It's not 1. I can name the board members if you want, but it's not me. Not 1 person. And Mr. Brescher met him in the school board convention.
Okay, since you bring it up, I mean, you did mention that you were meeting attorneys, but as I mentioned to you, as I responded to you, I thought these were attorneys that you were hiring for a different matter, a lawsuit that may be coming up. And I told you that when this all came about. You know that the lawsuit that may be coming.
Yeah, that's a tort claim. Yes.
Well, Paul, I have to ask, if you're talking about the lawsuit, the other person who's at the WAGMA meeting, the other two board members who are at the WAGMA meeting are not involved in any lawsuit, in that possible lawsuit at all.
What other two?
So why are they there?
What other two?
Let's get this on record then, okay?
And who else besides our board members were there interviewing the attorneys?
No, let's get this on record first. Shivi, are you there at the WAGMA?
I was just going to say, let me clarify. We were part of a team. I was invited. I showed up. I was disgusted by what I saw. I left. I have not met Mr. Ramon Rivera.
Okay, so Shivi, let me remind you. 2 days before the WAGMA meeting, we met an attorney, Yakov, at the Panera Bread.
Do you remember
Yes.
that I left? And do you remember that at the Wegmans, I was not sitting with the attorney? 2 of your friends were trying to convince me, and I left from there. Shall I name the friends? Do you want me to name the friends?
You can name the friends. Yeah.
Who are you sitting? Who are
I
you
was
meeting
sitting with Mr. Satish
Who are you
Pundi.
meeting with?
No, there's an auditor you were saying, right?
No. At Wegmans, you were sitting with an attorney, and I was sitting with Mr. Satish
Not just
Pundi,
one attorney,
who was
with-
trying to convince me.
Okay, let me go back. 2 days ago, you met this attorney that was appointed special and Yakov Bismol. Okay, 2 days ago on
we had-
December
I-
19th, and 2 days later, the meeting happened in Wegmans on the upstairs, where there's a cafeteria where
I
you
did not
met.
I did not meet any attorneys that day. I came. I sat
You
at a
left
different.
immediately.
I sat at a different table with Mr. Satish Pundi, and I left.
Okay, Shivi, can I ask them
No,
one more question?
I'm not going to be interrogated here. All right, I gave my point, and I've said.
Wait, not your turn
So
yet.
there
Not
are
your
two
turn yet.
occasions
Not
at-
your
at
turn yet.
Panera Bread.
I would like to say
When we have a
something.
public comments, you can come say your thing. Okay?
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I think that I want to clarify this for Mr. Rivera, why there's so much of this going on. In a conversation that I had with Mr. Shi and in a conversation that Mr. Shi had with Mr. DiStefano, he told us both that he wanted an attorney who would represent him as the president of the board. This was in December. At that time, I was hoping to become the president of the board, having served as vice president for 2 years. It doesn't matter to me if I'm the president or not. That's not what this is all about. But the problem was that Mr. Shi said he needed an attorney to represent him, not the 9 of us. And he said the same thing to Mr. DiStefano. And there's the crux of the problem. There are some of us here who feel no connection to you as our board attorney. We have no faith in you, nothing personal. We don't know you. And it's unconscionable to bring a resolution to a meeting when 4 of us at least and the superintendent did not have a clue as to what firms had been interviewed. That's the problem.
And also, I want to say for people who know me, know that I campaigned for the Board of Ed Unity team, and the Board of Ed Unity team had Mr. Jerry Shi, Falguni Patel, Beth Maroney, and Paul DiStefano. And it was not my election, but I actively campaigned for this team because this team I thought was the best for the school district, and I still feel that. And obviously, I'm not on the same page with Mr. Jerry Shi. And so, some fallout happened, and the fallout happened around the issue of the lawyer.
I just want to add something else. Okay, so when people ask me or Jerry questions, it's not interrogation, and when I ask you a question, it becomes interrogation. So can I ask a question then? So on December 19th at Panera Bread, were you there to see attorneys? It's a yes or no question.
What are you going to say to me, Mr. Lawyer?
Well, you were just asking. Jerry was asked questions, and you can ask me questions. I'll answer.
I have said what I had to say. We were
This
a
is
team.
December 19th.
We were a team. I was invited. I went there, I was disgusted by what I saw, and I left, and I'm not going to say anything else.
And after that, can I just add, after during all those past meetings, people are saying they have no idea this attorney has been involved. We're looking for attorneys. And you're one of them.
I have never met Mr. Ramon Rivera.
We had no
the
idea.
First time I saw Mr. Ramon Rivera was when he came for the meeting. I have never met Mr. Ramon Rivera.
I'm just saying, Shivi has said she has no idea that there's an attorney being interviewed or involved, or we're thinking about changing. That's in December 19th and December 21st. You saw in both locations. You see those lawyers. How can you say you're not involved or you didn't know idea?
Because at the second location, I did not see the lawyers. That's why.
No, but I'd like to say, I mean, Brandon could probably pull up our old videos, and I do remember because I was sitting on that side over there, and I do remember this side over here that said, "We never heard about anything."
We did not hear about the resolution. We're talking about the resolution. The day you fired Jonathan, we did not know anything about the resolution.
Oh, well, you
Yes.
can make a resolution and bring it up any day.
Well, we don't like blindsiding people.
Let's be honest here.
Right, it's been a discussion.
Before
We've all
the
talked
meeting,
about it for some time.
Everyone on this board knew what's going on. The resolution was introduced at 11 o'clock. Before the meeting, 7 o'clock. Everyone on the board knew what's going on. Put your hand in your heart. Put your hand in your heart and.
We did not know about the resolution from the proper channel. We heard it from the grapevine. The president did not reach out to any of the board members, or the person introducing the resolution did not reach out to any of the board members saying that such and such resolution will be introduced.
Is that required? No.
Not by law, but not everything needs to be by law. Some things are just moral and ethical.
Right, and being moral and ethical means not lying, right? And how come this you said you don't know anything going on when you saw a few attorneys in December 6th, 19th, and 21st?
You want me to roll back? Continue to roll back? In November, 4 of us had a brunch in Branchburg. At that discussion, we talked about replacing board attorney, including me, Shannon, yourself, and Chevy.
Correction, Jerry, you talked about replacing attorney. We did not.
But then you claim you have no idea this happened.
No. I have no knowledge about this. I have known that Jerry has been wanting to replace the attorney for some time.
Okay.
I have known about that.
Through the chair. As the new attorney here and also the newest person, I think at this point this discussion has been fully vetted. The board members have said what they need to say, and I'm not sure if what's happening or continuing to happen is going to be constructive or beneficial to the board as a whole. There have been legal actions that have been taken. If there are board members that are upset or have personal feelings about those matters, well, that's up to them, but questions have been asked. No board member is obligated to answer anyone's questions or directly respond to the public. That's just by law. But if you're going to be a functional board and a well-functioning board, you do need to communicate respectfully. That means, respectfully, I'm sorry. It means not interrupting each other. That means allowing each other to finish their sentences. And if you want to respond, you can. This has gone on at least at 2 meetings. The action has been taken, and I think it's just in the best interest of the board to move on to the business that you have at hand.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, okay? Let's not forget what we're elected for. We're elected to serve the students and the taxpayers. We're not elected to serve a vendor. Edison School District pays the vendor. All the vendors that's on here, 300 of them, Edison School District pays them. They do not pay Edison School District, all right? All the vendors need to work for the school board, period. The board members are elected to serve the people, not the vendors. That's all I'm going to say. All right? Board member comments. All right. So do we have any other comments about this, or you continue on to go with this?
We could save it for another time, I guess.
All right, okay. All right, now let's open up for public comments.
Margot Harris, 43 Oak Hills Road. I wish to address my remarks this evening to the board president, Mr. Jerry Shih.
Yes.
Jerry, when the board on which I served appointed you to fill out the term of Sapna Shah a few years back, it was done with the blessing of our late board president, Gene Maroff, who, like the rest of us, viewed you as a man with the highest of values and ethics, and thus who would well represent the best interests of the district stakeholders. And until recently, that's exactly what you did. During my tenure on the board, I always could look to you to vote your conscience after having carefully considered the issues and their prospective impact on the stakeholders of Edison. I always viewed you as a very honorable and trustworthy human being, and was proud to back you in your recent re-election bid, and was equally pleased when you were voted in as board president. However, in the months that have passed since then, something has clearly changed, drastically so. The seeds of this radical change might have been sown earlier last year, but the outcome is now such that you have formed your very own kangaroo court, whereby only select members are privy to some of the very important decisions and actions being made without the knowledge of others, including your vice president. As a former board member who proudly served during a time when we could disagree but still function as a cohesive and equally informed unit, I am alarmed by what has taken place, and I hold you ultimately responsible for allowing this to happen, especially for letting in certain outside influences with agendas that have nothing to do with what's right for the stakeholders of Edison, but instead who are all about their own special interests. The question, a rhetorical one for now, is what's in this new order of things for you, and what happened to the honorable, highly principled man of integrity appointed several years ago? I am fairly certain that Gene Maroff, were he still alive, would be as distressed as I am now. In any case, while I see there is probably no point in trying to appeal to you to return to your former incarnation of yourself, I am instead going to appeal not only to the other board members who, in the face of tonight's tie vote on the resignation of Dr. O'Malley, have another crack at this next month, but to all stakeholders viewing tonight's meeting. Please demand of your board members what they should be demanding of themselves: principle and honor before it's too late. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
I also have a question for Jerry.
Yes.
And for Shannon. Why did you interview?
Name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right. I forgot it.
Okay,
all this
okay,
time. Frank Heelan, 55 Harmon Road. Thank you, Jerry, for reminding me. Okay, now, a question for Jerry and Shannon. Why did you interview board attorneys at Wegmans and Panera's and wherever else on the second floor at Wegmans, of course, in mid-December now, in late December, without informing or even getting approval from the president or the vice president, since I was serving as the president of the board and knew nothing at all about the fact that people were being interviewed to be board attorneys?
I can answer that, but it was being addressed before. There's nothing wrong have information sessions with attorneys, so there's nothing wrong about that. And actually, you mentioned about Gene. I actually had a conversation when I was on the board. He said you should go out and have discussions, information sessions with different people.
Mrs. Peng?
To get what is going on.
I don't see legally why we cannot have information sessions with vendors that we are possibly trying to save the district money for.
And
we'll have to leave the Ethics Commission to decide this.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah,
yes.
sure. And don't forget, there's other board members at the meeting who feel so disgusted on December 19th, and then go again on December 21st, 2 days later, and 3 months later feel so disgusted and seems totally forget about all this and call this blindfolded.
Okay,
I just don't understand the logic in that.
Frank, let me ask to follow up the question. You know, why it's in the Panera Bread and why it's in upstairs Wegmans. As you know, when we had our meetings, even before when I was running campaigns, we have meetings in Panera Bread because we all work full-time. We don't have offices. We meet at the public places. Panera Bread, Starbucks, and the upstairs are Wegmans. Those are all public places. You go there, you will see a lot of professionals bring their laptops, they discuss things. That's why it was taken over there.
Okay.
It's much better than conduct interviews in somebody's house. Okay? If you think that conducting interviews is in somebody's house is better than in a public places, then maybe next time the board member, when they have any discussions, information sessions, they should conduct it in his or her house for the people who they do not know.
Okay, of course, I know it has been brought up. I thought the former attorney was an excellent attorney for us, and we watched, yes, we spent a great deal of money. He had several different people working within his firm, but I think it's a little bit, doesn't really pass the smell test to have 5 different firms, attorney firms, working for us when it leads to a tremendous amount of confusion. Also, now I had the same question about going to agenda and committee meetings, unnecessary costs to the taxpayers, and overstepping the boundaries between board members and administrators. I don't think that we can really, it's your job to investigate all of the vendors. You can ask for the administration to, but I don't see that the board members should take over the administrative jobs. Now, also I hear some wild rumors that, ask this, Jerry, do you intend to dismiss the superintendent, the business administrator, the health broker, the auditor, and the insurance agent, among others? I mean, is there anything to that rumor?
I'm just one vote. You know that. Anything that the board decides to do, it has to be by 4 more board members. I'm just one vote.
But you seem to have the 5-4. It seems to be the 5-4 game.
Well, I am not dismissing anybody. Any decision is made is by majority of the board. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Brescia.
Let me ask you something, because since I've got on this board, I've heard so many stories about myself. And you just asked about the superintendent, I guess the BA, the broker, and who else?
Insurance agent, the auditor.
And the auditor.
Yeah.
Okay, those 5. Well, I'll be honest with you. I love Dan. That's just my personal opinion. Dr. O'Malley, you know, if we take a vote, well, we'll see where that comes out. As far as the others, those are vendors. Now, I have to tell you, because our taxes were going up so much, because we have the additional security this year and the additional enrollment that we have to put on the addition, we were up, I think, at like 7% or something. So we wanted to save money. So the idea was you take a broker, make him broker of record, have him get pricing. If he saves us $1 million, you go with him. If he doesn't save you anything, you don't go with him. You go with the old broker. But from what I understand, because I didn't make the caucus meeting, was that most of the people didn't like that idea of having the opportunity to save the $1 million. But in all fairness, the administration was able to save us $1 million that they found right after that. So we did achieve that goal of saving that additional $1 million for the taxpayers this year, which I do appreciate.
Well, I think that remains to be seen. What happens
right, when
with
the budget gets
$1 million
done.
and the equal
right, and with the insurance,
coverage
the insurance should all be the same. You know, we weren't looking to change the coverage. We were just looking like the broker, because like I used to have New Jersey manufacturers, lowest guy in the world. I had him probably for 15 years. After that, somebody told me to try a new agency. I did that, and I ended up saving over $2,000. So that's really the idea, is that a lot of times your vendors kind of get used to and they stay in the same place, and it's just about getting pricing. If the pricing doesn't work out, I would never advocate for changing it.
Yeah.
So Frank, just want to add on top of that, because you know we have a contractual agreement with the unions. The people who's going to feel the impact of the insurance are sitting over there. You know, Matt and Andy, these are the biggest unions. That's why we have the health insurance. You know, we cannot go in randomly change anything. They have to have agreement, okay? So We are not talking about changing insurance. You know this better. We are talking about a broker, the guy who's going to go out and search for the insurance, right? So, you know, the things I don't understand is that, as I said before, right, we are selected to serve the people, right? Every time when we talk about replacing a broker, we have so much opposition to it, so strongly, it makes me feel that we, the board member, are elected to serve the vendors. That's wrong. We are here to protect the interest of the taxpayers and the students. That's what we are here
that remains
for.
to be seen. And,
yes.
But here's my final question. By turning over key personnel in the district, there is the potential for fraud, corruption, kickbacks, pay-to-play, and money laundering. And I think that the board should be aware of that. I mean, obviously, if there's 300 vendors and there's a budget of $240 million close to it, then there's a lot of chance to play games, and that's what I am very concerned about with what's been happening in the division in the board between the 5 and the 4. And so what I would like to do is recommend one by one of the residents of Edison, Joe Petroselli, who wrote Fraud in Organizations, so that we can be aware and be on the lookout for it when some people take over the board with a 5-4 and don't allow the others into the situation in a proper ethical way. And so I just want to thank you for listening to me. And I have to pick up my grandson in a few minutes, so I'll be running out, but I'll see the rest on the television.
I actually have a statement I want to make. You know.
Thank you.
Again, just as, I can swear under oath that I have never taken a money for any campaign, a lunch, a dinner, a ticket, or anything from any vendor. It has not happened. It will never happen again. My only answer are to the taxpayers or to the students. That's what I'm here for. That's why I'm going to make the changes. It makes me so sad that when we talk about changing vendors, there's so much oppositions. I just do not understand. What we want to do is save money for the district. Save money for the district. The vendors are just here to serve us. They need to give us what I said, give the best deal to Edison taxpayers and students. Otherwise, you are out. The vendors that we talked about insurance broker, this guy is going to go out to find us a better premium. If he cannot find a better premium, replace him. As simple as that. Give it a try. Why we cannot give it a try? Why we're so fixed that the current vendors are the best in the world that we don't want to touch them? To me, that's very fishy, and we have an issue. That's why I'm going to recommend the Finance and Facility Committee to look into the possibility, do an operational audit on hiring and on contract granting. I'm going to have a message to those vendors who are playing games. You better pray right now. Do not let me find anything. If I find anything, you will get out of here tomorrow, and I'm going to go after you. Do not take advantage of Edison taxpayers' money. That's what my philosophy. You want to ask me what I'm going to do? That's what I'm going to continue to do. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I gave you a folder for a new vendor for the one that you mentioned before.
Correct.
They haven't heard from you yet, and they did contact me today to ask, do you intend to call them?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And I have a list of 300 vendors here.
Okay.
Okay? We're going to go through the one from the top to the bottom. We're going to do $10,000 at a time. These are all the vendors that we paid in 2017, more than $10,000.
Jerry, I don't think it's that we have a problem looking at the vendors and examining, and I do commend you for wanting to save the taxpayers' money. I really do. But I think one of the problems is you keep shutting 4 of us out of your committees, and the board is not fully represented, so there's no trust.
Beth, you know there can be only 4 members on a committee. If we have 5 members, I'll put the 5th member on. right? And that's distributed between different groups. You are multiple committees, and we have other people on multiple committees.
I'm only on 3 committees, and only 1 committee of significance, but because the other 2 committees, one of them just meets once a year, and it's just a food service committee. I have only 1 committee when other board members have 6 or 7 committees. Jerry has shut me out.
We assign the committees based on people's interest. We cannot put all the people who have interest into the same committee. That is a decision of the board of the president, and I make the decision and I stand by it. And if you want to be on different committees, you can sit down with me. We can talk. We can see if we can make some rooms to switch other board members if they are willing to do that. Okay? So it's not the end of the world.
I have a master's in public administration with a specialization in public policy. I have been working as a policy analyst with this group for over 10 years, and I'm not in the policy committee.
Do any other board member comments?
No, it's public.
Okay, no, public comments. Yes, Miss. Yes. Oh, you're in line. Okay, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah. Stand online. Stand online. Yeah.
Saket Chadalavada, 26 Inverness Drive, Edison, New Jersey. I'm going to start off by saying I'm not a great public speaker, and also I know very little about the exact details about what you guys have been talking about for the last 20 minutes.
I'm sorry.
But from what I hear, I see nothing wrong with what happened. And I just graduated from J.P. Stevens last year, and I see the conditions of the school firsthand. There is no air conditioning. People are passing out every day in classes around me. I went to the nurse's office at least twice for it, and the vice principal didn't care for any of the complaints I gave him. I'm sorry, it just angers me a lot. I think it's good that we had the previous attorney removed because we were wasting $500,000 on him, and I think that the money could be put into better use, such as air conditioning, and it could really help students get a better education in the school. I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes? You cut in the line.
He let me.
He let you, okay, all right.
Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle. I'd like to say I'm not too sorry that I didn't get elected in November. I think I'm kind of better off on this side of the table, but I would like to just say that as part of not being part of the politics, I would like to change hats to speak to you about something that's important in this district. Edison's goal is nothing but excellence. And right now, and for the last many years, I've been the chairperson of the PTA-PTO Scholarship Committee. We give a scholarship to an Edison High senior and to a J.P. Stevens senior going on to college. The applications that we get from these seniors are beyond wonderful. Every year they come in and the trustees get to read these applications and rate who we feel should get the money that we're giving out. Up to this year, each winner gets a $4,000 scholarship, which is $1,000 a year for the 4 years that they're in college. And because some of them are so excellent and they finish college in 3 years, we extended still for 4 years, which would help supplement even past their BAs or BSs. But right now, I am reaching out, and hopefully many people watch this television, and I'm reaching out to parents and teachers in the district because as time goes on each year, people graduate out of being our trustees because their children are graduating. and I am reaching out to the different schools in the district to see if any parents or teachers would like to become a trustee on our committee. It's a very enlightening committee. It doesn't require going to more than one meeting a year, and that one meeting is just to sign up for when you would like to read the applications. The applications will be starting to be read next week, so if there is anybody that's interested, if they would like to get in touch with me, my email address is E as in egg, M as in Mary, A as in Arthur, C as in Carol, 554@optonline.net. And I would just like to close by saying this is our priority, that our students are coming out of this school district with a phenomenal education. We may not have enough room that we need to work on. We may not have the atypical facilities that some of these other districts have, but the students that are coming out of our school are to be proud of, and that should be our #1 priority. Thank you.
Thank you. So, by the way, how do you get your funding, by the way? How's the funding coming back? How do you get your funding every year? You're paying like 2 students, if I remember, right? Each school, each high school?
Each student gets $4,000, which is $1,000 per year.
Yeah.
And at any given time, there's 8 students. So our committee gives out $8,000.
Yeah, where is the funding coming from?
Well, years ago, the committee was a very strong committee, and we would have fundraisers, and we would have vendors donate. And each PTA or PTO or PTSO donates to our scholarship. Many schools still have it as a line item where they do donate to our committee. We did a gentleman by the name of Philip J. Capilupo was the initial chairperson, and it was very successful fundraisers. But as years have gone by, with the onset of like Project Graduation and many individual groups, our fundraising is now just limited to the donations of each school if they so can afford it. So we do have a foundation of money which is dwindling, and in a number of years we'll probably run out of funds, but until that time, I'm not going anywhere. We will continue to support these students, and it's phenomenal, and that's why in May I always announce the names of the winners and the schools that they're going to, because I'm just so proud of each and every one of them that has come and gone.
So if people want to donate money, where should they send to?
You give it to me now.
No, I'm saying to the TV people who
they can see their particular school, but the checks can be made out to the PTO Scholarship Committee.
PTO Scholarship Committee. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, Board. Mr. Shi, I just have one quick question.
Yes.
I heard you several times say that every time you're looking to change a vendor, you get tremendous, people. I don't know who opposes changing the vendors. You weren't clear about that.
And
you said it several times.
We talked about changing 2 vendors. We have a lot of resistance as first one, which is the attorney. And we also talked about last time about changing a broker, and we had a lot of resistance on that. So we have only 2 so far, and the broker, we're just discussing about it. We already have resistance.
So the resistance is amongst the board?
Yes, among the board members.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tarendra Lakankar, 192 Evergreen Road, Edison. I represent 2 people here, my 2 kids. One goes to JP Stevens and one goes to James Monroe. And as a president of the Market Co-op community, hosting 600 families and 80 students coming to the Edison school districts. I last time came 6 months before. I complained about the bus services because our community is really big, and the students paying the fee for transportation. And even if paying after that much of fee, they has to walk almost close to half mile within a community, within a cold weather to catch the bus. I asked that if you can come, Rick and Ralph Erico visited my community. They think this is a really outrageous. You're paying $500 fees and bus cannot come in. It should be looking into it. From me, I send emails to all our board members. My attorney from community also send emails to transport department. And my management company who runs the cooperative, they also send email, but there is no response from transportation or any of those. So I wish something should be happen and taken care of.
Yeah, you want to? Yeah, I want to address it.
Yes.
I spoke to him about this. Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay. No, but we added, there's a couple issues we have with busing. Yours is one of them that we have to bring up when our busing committee gets together. I asked Dan to get a committee date for the busing for us. There's, I think, about 4 places, or three or four, that are very similar to yours. And it's either we can get the bus down, or we're going to try and do another stop, or we're going to try and do something to make your pickups a little easier there.
Okay, and I also email you there is a bus going shortcut while coming back from the Woodrow Wilsons, so there is no issue of the bus making turns in the community. So just to let you know.
Right. I have the video of the bus going through. I showed it to Dan, and we showed it to John Griffin, and we're going to meet and discuss what you're one of 3 or 4 that we're going to talk about.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Amati, I think last year they said we're implementing a new software for better routing or something. Is that still, did I hear it wrong? That last year we were talking about this year we're going to use a software to optimize the routes.
Yeah, we did have a software. We didn't do the routes on it this year, though.
Okay.
It's supposed to be for next year. Yeah.
Oh, so for next school year. Okay. Is that for, yes, for the new school year.
Correct.
Yes, okay. Yes.
Bill Brunner, 215 Loring Avenue. Mr. Shi, since you've changed vendors on the attorney side, exactly how much money are we saving with the new attorney?
We are saving $5 an hour right now.
Pardon?
$5 an hour.
$5 an hour,
yes.
Fine. And just another suggestion, you personally with the attorney, since it was your idea to get him his feet wet sitting on some of these committees, you should have asked him to do it pro bono.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Maria Orchid, 83 Jefferson. I just wanted to make an announcement for next weekend, Bye Bye Birdie at Edison High. If you could please attend, we'd appreciate it. Also, the PTSO from Edison High are looking for vendors for April 28th. We're having a craft fair, and we'd love to have more vendors, and please attend. The money goes to project graduation. And thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Payal Parikh, 10 Wright Street, Edison. First of all, I want to thank you, the 2 board members, to come today to MLK. I'm the treasurer of the MLK PTA, and we support the author's visit. And our principal, Mrs. Wilton, she brings the best authors every year, and every year it's the same atmosphere. The kids are so happy. So I want to thank Mrs. Wilton also, and I want to thank you guys for coming today and talking about it today. It made us feel very good. Second, just on a small thing, you mentioned that the calendar year and school year, it's not 365 days. It does make, because I'm a treasurer on a very small scale, just for the PTA, but if you talk about the calendar year and about the school year, it makes the numbers change drastically, so it makes a big difference. And thirdly, we can only request at this point, because I think Dr. O'Malley has given his resignation, but it's in your hand to accept it or not accept it. Right now it's 4-4. I really hope and pray and request the 4 people who are in favor of accepting the resignation. As our president said, that he wants to work in favor for the taxpayer and for the kids. Not changing vendors and changing superintendent, it's 2 different things. It's a huge thing, and he has been the best. You said that the taxpayers and the children of the school district deserves the best, and I think most of us here believe that he is the best. So you don't have to change or look for something better when he is the best. So we really request every one of you to please don't accept his resignation. Keep him, because I think that is the best for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments? Yes.
Melissa Perlstein, 111 Clive Street. Just a question to follow up on the following commentary. Since you do have a resignation of the superintendent, and whether you decide to accept it or not is still up for grabs, what exactly is going to be the process if and when you do a search?
You want me? So I think what we need to do is, in order for us to go on a search, we need to terminate. We need to finish the current contract. I don't think any superintendent will be willing to come in when a live contract is ongoing. Okay, so as far as superintendent search, we have some debates here, but I would be looking for a nationwide search, because just like one of the parents said, Edison deserves the best, not the second best. We deserve the best. But some of the board members saying, we should do a regional search. That's still something that we're debating. But I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, we probably still have to create a search committee. All right, so we can decide that who will be on a search committee, and obviously some of the key members on the community will be there, and it'll be open process. So that's, as far as right now, that's what I can think about. Again. We want the best in the country, not the second best in the country.
Just another comment. I think it's, admirable that everyone, wants to look to save tax dollars. That's something, that's everybody's mantra, do less, do more with less. One of my concerns, or at least I'd love to hear your rationale, is that we got rid of the attorney, and there's been a lot of dialogue about that. It looks as though we'll be looking for a new superintendent. We're making some other changes. When you're doing all that, but then we also have this huge initiative on overcrowding and addressing that, how do you anticipate accomplishing all that when you are in transition right now? It would seem to me, and this is just my humble opinion, that you would want to keep some continuity. You would want to have people who had experience building some additions, building a new school that was totally not funded for, that was totally something done in an emergent way, and having all that bountiful level of experience. It seems, at least to the naked eye or to people, that you're kind of throwing out the baby with the bathwater. That these very people that led these constructions, because we haven't had, I mean, this has been years of neglect in terms of the way the buildings are, and it's hard because guess what? Taxes are really expensive in New Jersey, and we talk about this all the time. We're going to save money, but we're going to build schools, and it's such a complex issue, and it's just concerning to myself, at least as a resident, that we're taking all this knowledge base, because let's face it, with every experience you have in your professional life, especially building a school on the fly, not knowing, having it forced upon you, that you gain a level of experience and expertise, and you learn from your mistakes. And why you would want to get rid of all of that, and at the same time have all these initiatives where you want to build schools, I don't see the logic there.
Okay, so Dr. O'Malley is going to stay for another year. He's not leaving tomorrow. Okay, so there are some rumors out there saying we're going to buy him out. Let me just put it out there. All right, me, I am not going to vote to buy him out. I want to keep him for a year so we can have a smooth transition in the new superintendent if the whole board decides to accept his resignation, right? So we are looking at, the stuff we're looking at, the big ticket items, right? we're looking at the broker, the vendor, the insurance broker. The broker is the one who, as I said, go out find the insurance. We hope the insurance is not going to change or it's going to get better, but at the same time, we're saving the money. That's what you said. How are we going to, all these things going in, how can we get more money? We try to look for saving money. And you work in the mayor's office. I'm looking for the mayor's office to help us with all these fundings. I'm looking for pilot programs, which is being used in a lot of districts, and you're right here. So I'm going to challenge you to help me with finding the pilot money for our school district. Can you do that? That's another way of getting the funding. Yeah, what?
Yeah, just explain. I'm not here in an official capacity. I'm here as a resident.
Yes.
And I don't feel it's appropriate to speak on behalf of the mayor at this time regarding this. I'm sure we can have those dialogues, but I don't feel comfortable. I'm not the mayor, okay? And all I'm saying to you is that pilots is one way to do it, but there's a lot of things that need to be explored. And I'm sure you're going to do that with your big committee. I just am concerned about the breadth and depth of knowledge and expertise that we have here currently, and having that go at a time that will be so crucial in terms of having that experiential experience. Because most schools, there are not that many districts in the state of New Jersey that are building schools on a regular basis and having the challenges that we have here with space and population and everything else. That's all.
Points well taken.
I'm sure we will be happy to help you. I know the mayor is very much
maybe
someone who...
we can have a sit down in Wegmans, we can talk about...
But I just want to go on the record. I'm not here as an official.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I guess with the overcrowding, the building and things like that, that is paramount for what I see is our big problem here. We have board members I see sitting in the back, ex-board members, and at a time they had a facilities and finance plan. And that plan dictated what our buildings needed and what money needed to be allocated each and every year so that it could be budgeted in our budget so the taxpayers didn't have to foot large bills. In that plan, it does predict the 16,000 student enrollment, but nobody has done anything for the last, I don't know, 6 or 8 years, I think it is, to compensate for that overcrowding. So we knew that overcrowding was happening. I have that document, and I don't mind showing you, because what we did was we did other things. We did the one-to-one initiative with the children for the laptops and all of that. We've done a lot of good things, but we've neglected the whole space type of thing. And when we talk about the expertise, yes, we did build a new school. We built James Monroe. It's a beautiful school, like I've said. It's might be in an architectural digest, like I keep on saying. You look at that school, we have a glass partition there that comes from Finland or something like that. I'm talking about building just a regular school, something that is 30% less than what we spent on James Monroe, so that we could acquire more space for our children. I've been walking in these schools. You cannot walk through these hallways with our kids there. We've had kids that got hurt. We've had board members' children that got hurt in the school. I mean, so it is our #1 concern, and I don't think, that there's only one person that can build a school. There's a lot of people that build schools. There were change orders that happened for the James Monroe School that I still find is very questionable that they were approved and passed, because to me, they weren't requested by us. They were what we call a CE, which is an architectural boo-boo, which means the architectural company, his insurance company, should have paid for that. But you didn't have anybody with the knowledge in construction on the board or in the administration at the time, so nobody questioned it, and it was approved, and we paid for it, okay? We are fighting that in other areas now with other change orders that have come up, because I brought that up to the other attorney that we had, who then went and looked into the other contracts we have with other vendors like that. So to have that expertise, I plan on being here for another 2 years. I hope we can get a plan in place and actually take care of this overcrowding. I can't say that we're going to solve it for the public, but if we can put a big dent in it, I'd be very happy to say that I took part in that.
Thank you. Yes, Joe.
Thanks for looking in the back. Joe Romano, Edison Township. How's it feel to be board members, huh? Pretty good?
You want to sit here? You want to switch?
Mr. Shi, yeah, you're doing a fine job.
Thank you.
The superintendent, his job is multifaceted. One thing in his job, and I know it's probably part of some sort of an internal review, is moving the district forward. When Dr. O'Malley was hired, and I didn't vote yes, I voted no, Sundance told us there would be about 16,500 students. And I'm almost positive that we're in that area. The superintendent's job is to take and make sure that we're getting there. We're trying to get more classrooms, trying to find the funding, trying to come up with the room. Gentleman sitting here at the end talks about a brand new school that we built. The footprint on that school should have been made bigger, if possible. The funding, I believe, was brick for brick, according to the insurance company, and the building codes had changed from when it was first designed. So extra monies was needed. I believe there was some sort of an arrangement made. There was, I do not remember this, and I apologize. There was some sort of a request to go out to the township to bond. Was that, did they go out and get a bond for the school construction, the extra that we needed to build onto that school?
James Monroe, you said? You mean?
Yeah.
We did go out for bonding because we need to have the money in place, but we did not use it because we got all the money from the
So
insurance.
the money that was bonded, you didn't use the bond money at all?
No, we did not use. That was part of.
Okay, that's great. Was there any planning or thought in the process to make the school accommodate maybe 50 or 100 students more? And does it hold any more students than it? Because
it is. The answer is yes.
At the last board meeting, there was a principal that got up here and was complaining that the school didn't have enough room. Was she right or wrong? I mean, look, principals want more. I remember being there and hearing it all the time. But what I'm trying to say is the superintendent has a big job trying to find how to get bigger bang for the buck. Now, I was invited to attend some of these meetings to talk about the school construction formula, and it's a real big problem. This town has a lot of problems. We don't have the land to build a school, plus we don't have the money to build a school. And some of the legislators that I've talked to are saying, yeah, that's good, buy a lottery ticket. Dr. O'Malley, what is your plan to inspire the township to spend $30, $40 million on a new school or a facility? Or have you decided, or are you planning on coming up with a proposal to come up with a more innovative way of doing education in our districts? I mean, that's why we're paying you the big bucks. And when we pay you the big bucks, we're looking for those answers. So is there a plan, or is there some sort of something that's going on in the country, a new way of doing things, where we're going to be able to take and educate more children at a higher quality, at less cost? I mean, that you're talking about vendors at a less cost. Is there any way, do you have any suggestions? Have you discussed it with the public on how we're going to pay for it, and what's your idea? Through the chair, of course.
So why don't you ask those questions again, because there was an education question, there was building and funding.
How are we going to fund it? And the education system, how are you going to take and implement an education system to make the education system in Edison to your expectations or your goals?
So I think there is a plan in place for the overcrowding. I think we've actually done quite a bit to do it. You talk about the Sundance thing. So if you would have taken that Sundance thing and make it 16,000, nowhere in that demographic study, which the demographic study is based only upon birth rates. If you understand that study, it's on birth rates. No one would expect 1,200 students in 1 year. So when you're trying to use those things, there's no anticipation that there were 16,000 students based on birth rates. So that's not accurate. So there's a plan in place of what we're looking at now as a board to understand how we can solve the overcrowding issue, because there is, as I said, there is funding the actual physical facilities and then putting the people in the facility to educate the students. Two different things. One is directly to your budget, one is long-term debt. So both of those two things need to be taken into account. And I think the plan that we put together that we're looking at now kind of balances that out. You know, if you saw with the school funding formula, you know, Edison only got another $700,000. We'll take it, but when neighboring school districts are getting far more than we are, I think it's a funding issue. There's very little creative, innovative ways to fund. You mentioned pilots and what other, but there's really, if you look at it, not a lot of schools being built in New Jersey. Just probably those schools that are being built in New Jersey are being built on taxpayer funds. So I think that is something that the legislature looks at. That's something that we all have to look at. But I think what the real issue is, you talk about property taxes, and now people can't write them off on their taxes, anything above $10,000. It becomes, you know, we'll have a real issue along those lines of people affordability of moving forward. The second part is, when I came and you were on the board, I can say, and you could probably, if you're willing to say it, this district is far better academically than it ever has been in its 50-year history. And that is my job, to make sure that academics are first and foremost, kids are safe, and they're good learning environments. I don't think you can match that record.
I didn't ask that. All I asked
I was responding the way I think
what is your, no, I'm not saying anything about the education process. I'm talking about how are you going to lead your board, the board that hired you, the board that is thinking about rehiring you. How are you going to lead this board and explain to them how you're going to sell to this district your plan to educate our children in our schools that need to be, I'm not saying upgraded.
Sorry.
We're doing a great job with what we have. But how are you going to take, look, you're in a job interview now.
No, I'm not.
You're going to take and tell, you're going to try to take and sell us on how you're going to take and get your board members to talk to you and take and come up with your plan, your vision on how to get this school district where it's got to go.
I think if I spent a lot of my time, what you've seen over the past 3 years, convincing these board members what it is, I think my job is to convince the community what our schools are doing, what they need. And I think for the only superintendent that's passed a referendum in the past 15, 20 years, I think I've got a pretty good track record of doing that.
I can't remember many that did pass referendums.
Exactly why I just said I'm one of the only ones that have passed it.
Okay, sir. Good luck, board members. You'll need it.
Thank you.
Can I just one comment on
Yes,
that?
go ahead.
I know our schools are great now. I have to tell you that. They are very good. I will tell you that I graduated from J.P. Stevens in 1981, and at that time I believe we were in the top 50 in the state. So from when I graduated to when Dr. O'Malley took over, somehow we dropped down, and then he brought us back up. But this school district has been that great. That's why everybody moved here. You didn't move here yesterday or 5 years ago because he got here and brought this up. You moved here before that because this was a great school system. And I think everybody should realize that. And what that comes down to has nothing to do with any board member out here, any board member up here, any administration. What made this town and this school system great was our staff that we have and our parents that are here. My parents made me sit at that dinner table doing homework till 9, 10 o'clock at night in 1981, and our parents continue doing that today, and our children are just better off for it. I'd like to thank the parents and the administrators and the staff.
Thank you.
He thanks the teachers. That's a good I swore I wouldn't get back up today, but I'm sorry I have to. Actually, I want to jump on two things. One of the things that Dr. O'Malley said, which I actually was going to come up and say, and you actually beat me to it. Let's face it, the biggest thing when it comes to revenue is that we are so shortchanged. I've been saying this for the last 12 years as the money person for ETA in terms of what we get from the state. That's what it comes down to. As Dr. O'Malley said, you know, the governor promised to fully fund the school funding formula. We're getting approximately $700,000, I heard, when surrounding towns are getting a lot more than we are. You know, over 4 years, we're supposed to make up $23 million. 700,000 is nowhere near making strides in terms of getting to that point. So, you know, that's even assuming that it passes the Assembly and the Senate, the budget intact. So, you know, everybody's saying we're getting this. Well, maybe not. It's still got to be voted on. So I agree. That is, again, the biggest problem. But I also want to think what Mr. Brescher said. Because every time I hear people, I've been in this district 29 years. And every time I hear people say that, and I'm not saying the district has moved forward, no doubt about it. I've always used the term we're poster children for why technology doesn't matter. And I always do commend Dr. O'Malley, as that's one of the things I have to say, is you brought us forward in terms of technology. In fact, sometimes I think too quickly. I know we talked about it personally as warp speed, and you know, you've always commended the teachers for stepping up to the plate. But sometimes I take it insulting when it's here. It sounds like our district was really in like a sewer before that, and it wasn't. We are an envy of most districts around the state. I know I personally, when I stood and taught, I put in for 2 districts, and that was Edison as my #1, and East Brunswick is my #2. And that's because I knew they were rivals and they were the 2 best in this area. When I interviewed for the job and got the job here with the superintendent way back in the day, one of the things he asked me was, well, why should I hire you? I said, because if you don't, I'm going to go and be a thorn in your side in East Brunswick. So I knew what the right answer was. This has always been a great district. And as Mr. Brescher just mentioned, the parents, and I've heard this from parents. I even asked parents that. Let me ask you a question, like, why do we have such an influx of students from India? And they said, because the Edison School District is known in India. We have JFK Hospital, we have mass transit to New York, but also our school system. And it's been that way for 29 years I've been here. And it's continuing to progress. And I do thank you, though, for commending, because I do believe, you know, an administration does have a part in that. We've had some good quality administrators, leaders, from the superintendent to our principals, but on a day-to-day basis, it is our teachers, our support personnel, the wonderful, hardworking students we have, and parents that support the education system in Edison. So it's a unified effort. And I don't want to belittle anybody's part in that, but I do take it insulting when I do hear that, you know, that it makes it sound like 10 years ago this was not a good district, and it always has been. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to add on top of that, it's because in my mind, when you talk about the students, how they excel, there's 3 parts. I always say there's 3 parts in the education system, right? You have the school system, the teachers. You have the kids that are willing to push themselves, challenge themselves. and also the part of parents, the support from the family. You cannot miss any of these one of it, okay? All these three has to be in place in order for the child to excel. To go back to the funding you just mentioned, we know we're short, and that was a proposed budget for the next school year. So last night, myself and Mrs. Penn, we were talking to our Congressman Frank Pallone, and we were talking to our Assemblywoman Nancy Pinky, just on these issues. So we'll continue to fight probably not the word, we'll continue to work with them to get more funding into our district. If you look at the fundings that, the proposed funding, right? As you said, we only got 5%. You look at the neighboring district, 12%, 10%, dollar amount, right? Woodbridge, $30 million. We are 16. We are short. We need to continue to get our fair share. In order for us to get there, the board needs to work together. We need to work together as one unified board to go out, get the funding for Edison District. Those infighting, put the personal vendetta aside. Let's work for the children. Let's work for the taxpayers. If we continue to fight among the board members, we're getting nothing done. We need to work for the kids. We need to work for the taxpayers. That's what I'm going to say. Any other public comments? Okay. See none. Meeting is adjourned. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Need a second.
Do we have a motion?
Need a second.
Second. Okay. Meeting is adjourned.